Good morning, AP Micro students. This is Miss Beck coming at you from day 7 of the quarantine. Today we're going to continue our exploration of perfectly competitive firms. We're going to be looking at modules 58 and 59 in Krugman's Economics for AP, 2nd edition. So we're going to start with a quick review. What are some characteristics of perfectly competitive firms and markets? And I asked you to give me 3. I've given you 4 here. So first and foremost, in perfect competition, firms are price takers. The price is set by the market, and firms and consumers do not influence price. So individual firms and consumers can't really influence price in any way. That has to be set by all firms and all consumers in the market. There are lots of firms in the market, so many businesses in the market, and the products that these businesses produce are pretty much identical, at least to the vast majority of consumers out there. So wheat is wheat is wheat, strawberries are strawberries are strawberries. Most consumers don't really care which farm they come from unless they're buying them specifically from the farm. But if they go to the grocery store, they're not noticing. It's like, oh, which cows or which dairy produced my milk? Also, there are few barriers to entry or exit the market. It's very easy to get into the industry, relatively speaking, and it's also fairly easy to get out of the market. So there are very few barriers to entry or to exit. Here are some more important characteristics of a perfectly competitive firm. The demand for the firm is perfectly elastic at market price. They can sell as much as they want at that market price. If they raise their price, they can't sell anything. If they lower their price, well, there's no incentive to. If they keep the price at market price, they can sell as much as they want. Why would they lower it? 2, because demand is perfectly elastic at market price, the demand curve is, well, it's a horizontal line, and it's set at the price of the market. Also, your price is also equal to your marginal revenue and your average revenue. So that horizontal line, that horizontal demand curve, it's also price. It also shows marginal revenue. It also shows your average revenue curve. For all market structures, including perfectly competitive, profit maximizing, loss minimizing, optimal output rule is MR equals MC. So MR equals MC is true for every single market structure we're going to talk about, and this includes perfect competition. And in the long run, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but in the long run, perfectly competitive firms make what's called normal economic profit. So most of them have the potential to make positive accounting profit, but when you factor in all of those opportunity costs, they're breaking even. And this has a lot to do with those not high barriers to entry and exit. There's low barriers to entry and exit in the market. If businesses are making a profit with their product, more businesses are going to join in, and they're going to get more businesses and more businesses, and that's ultimately going to drive the market supply up, driving price down. So firms are going to be making less and less profit. Some of these firms are going to be making losses, and then they'll get out. And that's kind of this interplay between firms entering and exiting the market, which causes perfectly competitive firms to break even in the long run, so making that normal economic profit. Again, key thing to always remember, what is the optimal output rule for a perfectly competitive firm? It is MR equals MC. Or the last unit where marginal revenue is greater than marginal cost. You don't get hung up on it equaling MR equaling MC, but just know it's where MR equals MC, or the last unit where your marginal revenue, your MR, is greater than MC. That's where a firm is going to make the most profit. Or if it's making a loss, it's going to be making the least loss. So that's why we often refer to this as profit maximizing or loss minimizing optimal level of output. And we saw this yesterday, but this is just another quick graph of the industry and firm for a perfectly competitive market. So what you'll see is the market price is the standard supply and demand graph, the market graph that we've been doing over and over and over. And it sets the price for your peach farm in this case. And to draw this, you would draw a horizontal line at that market price. And that would also be, you would label that MR equals D equals P equals AR. It's all of those things. Mr. DARP, MR equals D equals AR equals P. Your marginal cost curve is your swoosh, ATC, and AVC. All right there. And your quantity, again, profit maximizing or loss minimizing is where MR equals MC. So where your MR intersects the MC curve, that is where you're going to produce. Remember on this graph, the MC equals supply when it is above AVC. You are not going to produce below AVC, you're producing above AVC. So this is where you're going to produce, and that is your supply. How do you know if a perfectly competitive firm is profitable? So there are a bunch of different ways of looking at it. Basically, it comes down to, is your total revenue greater than total cost? Then you're making a profit. If your total revenue is equal to total cost, you're making normal economic profit, which means you're breaking even. Positive accounting profit and normal economic profit. There's no better use of your resources than what you're currently doing. There's no incentive to change. Now, sometimes if you look at these graphs, you might be like, well, how do you know if you don't have TR and TC? What if you've got ATC and price or something else? Well, remember, on these graphs, that horizontal line means a lot of different things. So if your price is greater than your average total cost, you're making a profit. If your price is equal to average total cost, you're making normal profit. If your average revenue is greater than average total cost, you're making a profit. If your average revenue is equal to average total cost, you're making normal profit. You get the idea here. So how do you know if you're making a loss? Well, if your total cost is greater than your total revenue, you're making a loss. Or you could say this is your total revenue is less than your total cost. You're making a loss. Same thing with ATC and price. So if your ATC is greater than your price, the firm's incurring a loss. It's not making a profit. If your price is less than your average total cost or your ATC, you're making a loss. And you can see this in this graph right here. And so I went ahead and left the market graph up that we've been looking at. And right here, what we see, when you take that quantity line, because you're producing, where MR equals MC, just right there, and you take this line all the way up to the ATC curve and then over. What's happening here is that this firm is actually incurring a loss. Your revenue is where this line is and then down. So this box here is your total revenue, but where ATC intersects, that is your total cost. And the difference between your total revenue box and your total cost box, in this case, is your loss. So this little yellow section right here is your area of loss. So does this mean this firm should shut down? No, actually it doesn't. So when should a firm shut down? Well, it should shut down when price falls below the average variable cost. Remember, this variable cost is your cost to produce additional output. So if your price falls below that, you can't afford to buy anything, any inputs to produce. So the shutdown rule is when your market price is less than your average variable cost. So market price is less than your minimum AVC. If you can't sell your good for the average variable cost, don't produce it. Shut down. And basically what that means is there's no level of output where a firm's total revenue would cover the cost of inputs for that firm. Remember, with variable costs, this would be like your wages, your resources like wheat, and if you're a bakery, or your raw materials for producing your good. So what does a shutdown mean? Well, it means that a firm should temporarily stop producing its good. And it doesn't mean it should get out of business entirely. It just means it should wait and see what's going to happen. The market may recover. Prices might rise as other firms exit the market. There may be a way of reducing cost. You need to look at that. But a shutdown means that a firm should temporarily halt production, because if they don't halt production, they just keep incurring those input costs that they can't afford to pay. And so they should temporarily stop and wait to see what's going to happen in the market. They're not at the point where they should close permanently, necessarily. And a lot of firms do this seasonally. I think about Hahn in Cedartown. They would often do seasonal shutdowns because they make school furniture and office furniture. And when schools aren't buying a lot of furniture or placing a lot of orders, there's no reason for them to be in full production. So continuing on, this is just kind of going into what I was just saying. And here you can see our peach farm. You can see in green the area of total revenue. The red outlined box is the area of total cost. And then the loss is the yellow area right there. This just going in, should all firms making a loss shut down? No. If the price is less than average total cost, but greater than average variable cost, you shouldn't shut down. Yes, you're operating at a loss, but you would be hurting even more if you shut down at this point and look more bleak, then shut down. And again, that shutdown rule is when price goes below average variable cost. So here we see a firm that is earning a profit. Sorry, comparing graphs. Industry firm, graph firm. This firm is earning a profit. You can see that the marginal revenue, price, demand, the curve is above the ATC curve. So yay, profit. And the profit would be this box right here. Here we have a firm breaking even, and you can tell it's breaking even because ATC is intersecting MC where it intersects MR. So the ATC intersects MR and MC all together. So it's making normal economic profit. This firm is making a loss but should keep producing. ATC, you can see, is above the price, but a VC is below price. So yes, it's making a loss. It's making a loss of this little sliver here, but it's still able to make its production costs. It can't quite pay all of its fixed, relatively speaking, but it can make its production costs. And this is a firm that should shut down. And what you'll notice is both AVC and ATC are above your marginal revenue price curve. So in AVC and ATC are above marginal revenue, above price, then you should shut down. And these graphs are just showing you where you would find these. So there's your total revenue box. So it's where at the quantity where MR equals MC, you take it over, there's price, and then down, and that whole box is total revenue. Total cost is set with the ATC curve where it intersects that quantity. So where MR equals MC, create your quantity line, go up to where it hits the ATC curve, and then over, and that gives you your area of total cost. To find total cost, you would multiply quantity times price. Over here, total variable cost, kind of the same thing. You've got your quantity that goes where MR equals MC. You would take this to where it intersects the AVC line and then over to price. So your total variable cost would be in this box right here. Your total fixed cost, you might be like, well, there's not a fixed cost curve on here. You're right, there's not. But fixed cost is actually still shown. It's the distance or the difference between ATC and AVC. Remember, AFC is ATC minus AVC. So, and you would illustrate this by showing the distance. So what's different between ATC minus AVC and then over, that would give you your total fixed cost. So in this case, you've got a quantity of 8 and a difference of 1. So 4 minus 3 times, that's 1 by the way, times 8, your total fixed cost of producing 8 units is $8. And this is a firm making a profit. And you can tell the area of profit because where MR equals MC, you take it down to where it hits ATC and then over, and then what's left over there, that is your area of profit.